The short answer is no. Original Medicare does not pay for hearing aids. It does not pay for the exam to fit them either. And before you assume that is some recent cut, it is not. That exclusion has been sitting in the law since Medicare started in 1965. It is not a plan choosing to be difficult. It is written into the statute itself. 60 years, same answer. So that is the question answered in about 20 seconds. But if you stop there, you will miss the part that actually matters, because there are 4 separate routes to getting hearing aids paid for or made affordable. And original Medicare is only the first door. One of them changed completely in 2022, and it has cut the price for a lot of people by thousands of dollars. Most people over 65 still have not heard about it. Let me take you through all 4. Start with the exception inside original Medicare, because there is one and it is worth knowing precisely. Medicare Part B will cover a diagnostic hearing and balance exam, but only under one condition. A doctor has to order it to investigate a medical problem. Here is the distinction, and it is a strange one. It is not about what happens in the room, it is about why you are in the room. If your doctor sends you for a hearing test because you have sudden hearing loss or dizziness or ringing that appeared out of nowhere, that is diagnostic. Medicare Part B covers it. You pay the Part B deductible first, which at the time of recording is $283 for the year, and then the usual 20% of the approved amount. But if you walk into the same clinic, sit in the same booth with the same audiologist, and the reason on the paperwork is to size you for hearing aids, it is not covered. Not the exam, and certainly not the devices. Same room, same test, different billing code. So if you genuinely have a medical symptom, say so to your doctor plainly, because the reason for the referral decides whether Medicare pays for that first appointment. That is door 1, and it only gets you the exam. Before I go on, it is worth knowing why the exclusion is there at all, because it explains a lot of other things people find baffling about Medicare. When the law was written in the 60s, hearing aids were put in the same category as eyeglasses and routine dental work, things the drafters treated as ordinary personal expenses rather than medical treatment, closer to a household purchase than a hospital stay. That is why, if you have ever wondered why Medicare does not cover your glasses or your dentures either, it is the same clause and the same thinking. Medicine moved on. Hearing loss is now well understood to affect balance, isolation, and cognition. But the exclusion did not move with it, because changing it means Congress changing the statute, and that has not happened. So it is not your plan being mean, it is a 60-year-old definition that nobody has updated. Door 2 is Medicare Advantage, and this is the answer most people get told. Medicare Advantage is Part C, private plans that replace original Medicare and are allowed to add extra benefits on top. Hearing is one of the most common extras. At the time of recording, roughly 97% of Medicare Advantage plans offer some kind of hearing benefit. That number sounds like the problem is solved. It is not, and here is why. Almost none of them cover hearing aids outright. What they give you is an allowance, a fixed pot of money toward the devices, commonly somewhere between $500 and $3,000, depending on the plan. That range is enormous, and it is the single biggest thing to check before you assume you are covered. There are 3 catches worth knowing before you rely on one. The first is that allowances are usually tied to a network. You often have to use the plan's chosen supplier and their chosen brands, not whoever you want. The second is frequency. Most plans allow one set every so many years, not whenever you like. And the third is the one that stings. If your allowance is $1,000 and the devices the plan offers cost $3,000, you are paying the difference. An allowance is a discount, not a payment. So door 2 is real, and it is worth having. Just read the actual number in your plan documents rather than trusting that hearing is covered. Now door 3, and this is the one I most wanted to tell you about. In August 2022, the Food and Drug Administration finalized a rule that created an entirely new category of hearing aid. Over the counter, it took effect in October of that year. What that means is simple. If you are an adult who thinks you have mild to moderate hearing loss, you can now walk into a pharmacy or order online and buy hearing aids directly. No medical exam, no prescription, no fitting appointment with an audiologist. That was not legal before. For decades, buying a hearing aid meant going through a professional, and the professional was bundled into the price. Now look at what happened to the money. Prescription hearing aids are expensive. People commonly spend at least $4,000 out of pocket for a pair, and at the top end it can run to around $6,000 per ear. Over-the-counter devices generally run between $200 and $1,500. When the FDA made the rule, its own estimate was that it would save people on the order of $1,400 per hearing aid. More than $2,800 on a pair. That is the biggest change to this question in decades, and it happened quietly. But I want to be careful here because over-the-counter is not right for everyone, and the limits are real. They are approved for perceived mild to moderate hearing loss in adults. That is the actual wording. If your hearing loss is severe, they are not designed for you. If the person needing them is a child, they are not for children at all. And if you have pain, drainage, sudden loss in one ear, or dizziness, that is a medical situation and it belongs in front of a doctor, not in a shopping basket. I am not a doctor and this is not medical advice. What I can tell you is that the option now exists, legally, at a fraction of the price. For the group it was designed for, door 4 is the one people forget entirely, and it splits in two. The first half is Medicaid. Roughly half of states cover hearing aids for adults with their own caps and their own limits on how often. The other half offer no adult hearing aid coverage at all. So this one depends entirely on where you live, and it is worth 10 minutes on your own state's program, rather than assuming either way. One thing to note is that over-the-counter devices are generally not covered by Medicaid in most states, even where prescription ones are. The second half is the Department of Veterans Affairs. If you are an eligible veteran, the VA provides hearing aids at no cost. No allowance, no coinsurance, no $1,000 gap, at no cost. That is the single most underused route for this age group, and if you served, it is the first phone call to make, not the last. So let me put the whole thing back together. Original Medicare does not cover hearing aids and never has. It will cover the exam, but only when a doctor orders it to investigate a medical problem, not to fit you for devices. Medicare Advantage usually gives you an allowance rather than coverage, and the amount varies wildly, so read the number. Since 2022, you can buy over-the-counter hearing aids without a prescription for a few $100s instead of a few thousand, if your hearing loss is mild to moderate. And Medicaid depends on your state, while the VA costs eligible veterans nothing at all. Plans differ, states differ, and none of this is medical advice for your situation. But the answer to the question you typed is no, followed immediately by 4 other doors. And most people only ever try the one that is locked. One thing I would like to know. Did anybody ever tell you that you can buy hearing aids over the counter now? Tell me in the comments, because I suspect for most of you the answer is nobody did.